Hello, and welcome to the podcast where good trivia gets rewarded and bad lies are punished. But will we catch the lies? This is What's the Fact?
Yes, it's the podcast where you can win if you want. Don't go there. Don't go
Not
there.
yet, not
Hello.
yet.
Yeah,
Not
my
yet,
name's Ryan Whittal, Warren Robertson, and it's delightful to have you join us. Thanks so much for this. We've got a terribly exciting episode today. You can see
You already know, though, because you could see it
on the title.
on the title.
We don't
thing.
even know yet. What is it, Deet? No, I'm joking. We know because the bugger makes us go and do some research. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. You're going to get some thought. You get some thought-provoking facts from this takeout and some eye candy. Closer. Boom.
Yeah. Ironically, doing the 80's music podcast, your mic
Yes.
technique is what's sucking here.
Yeah, I like this old
But that's
school
it's
ones.
an 80's music. 80's music podcast. This is
80s
one-
music. Oh,
Yeah, this is one that you've been waiting
love it.
for.
Oh, I so have been waiting for. It's wonderful. Like, you know, I've told you before, the debate is over about the best decade of music. It's now like, was it 84, 87? You know?
Who has said this debate is over?
Professor.
Because
The
I
professor.
still have very strong reservations.
Really, where would you go besides the 80s for
What-
best music decade ever? 90s was good.
I mean, you know, but like the 60's was great.
Oh, yes.
70's was pretty good, and then 80's really kind of lets them down a little bit. I'm still of that. I'm still of the opinion, you know, I'm not riding the nostalgia wave. A lot of people love the 80's because they're on the nostalgia wave now. So they
Yeah.
like to watch the TV shows from the 80's and buy the toys from the 80's, and you know, they cassettes are showing much higher percentage
My
sales than
word.
they have in years because people are now buying cassettes again out of nostalgia, and also because they're cheap to make, and yeah, so there's all this kind of 80's nostalgia around at the moment. Whereas if you lived through the 80's and then you got into the 90's, you were kind of condescending about the 80's, I think.
Yeah.
And the 80's music. Although, you know, as I'm sure we will discover,
It
there was
did-
quite a lot of good music around.
Oh yeah, there was, and it was a thing, sort of, even in the late 90s, to start mocking 80s music, because it had a clearly defined kind of style about it, and it was, and the fashion that was that went along with it was like worthy to be mocked and stuff. It was a
also-
flamboyant, neon, larger than life decade.
Yeah, and a lot of it was also like a lot about the fashion and the, you know, so even the rock bands had kind of
Yes.
style and wore, you know, tight pants and big hair, and you know,
Yeah.
like there were
Bon Jovi.
fashionable hair. Yeah, there were fashionable hairstyles, and there were
Yeah.
fashionable, and a lot of the pop music was just kind of like empty pop. And then I suppose in the 90's, people believed that suddenly the music had more meaning, that now they were singing about important things, and that the music in general, because of the grunge movement, whatever, fashion became less important, became more about the music.
Yeah.
So people started viewing the 80's as being this like flippant, doesn't really matter decade.
Yeah.
Sort of forgetting that a lot of what happened in the 90's arose out of the 80's at the same time. I think they abandoned keyboards almost entirely in the 90's. I think bands basically just decided the keyboard was no longer a thing.
Yeah.
It was like it reached the keytar, and then everyone was like, no, that keytar is an abomination, and we will never play a keyboard ever again as a result.
Yeah, synth pop, hey? It was like, you know, I'm still not even sure how to define the genres of like new wave and synth pop. And I think new wave had a bit of synth pop, but they're all in there, man. They're all in there. And when you think of things like, I could talk about this stuff forever. We think of things like Depeche Mode and Just Can't Get Enough. You know, that keyboard intro, dan, 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 dan. That's like synth pop heaven. Synth pop.
So this is something I'm gonna have to admit going into this, is that I didn't really pay a lot of attention to the music in the 80's.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I was young. You know, I was like 10 years old. At the
I was your
oldest,
age,
at the
but the-
oldest end.
the problem is, the reason why I had this weird eclectic knowledge of 80s music, despite the fact that I was between the ages of 5, 6, 7, you know, when your awareness grows, is because my mom was a music lover, but my brother was 6 years older than me and always being cool, and my sister was 4 years older than me, always being cool, and I just had to. I was forced to. Small little home, forced to listen to their music, ended up loving it, and it was V-Town, and I loved V-Town, and so the nostalgia is like very potent for me, very, very potent. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. 80s V-Town. It's huge, man.
Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, so I want to kick this podcast off by talking about a band that I do remember from the 80s because my parents used to play it in the car on the way down to Durban. When I was
those holidays to
when I was like
Durban.
6 years old or whatever, 7 years old, because they used to have a tape box of like a dozen tapes. And one of them, one of them was like ABBA, and two of them were the Beatles, and one was Neil Diamond. See,
Yes.
the fact that I can reconstruct this, and then two of them were Noddy, because that was for me Noddy's stories, and then one of them was the band Modern Talking.
Oh yes, Modern Talking,
which
huge.
I think in Germany there's a lot of debate about whether Modern Talking was the greatest band of the 80s or whether it was the worst thing to happen to Germany since World War II.
Were they German? I thought
Yeah.
they were Swedish. Were they German?
Yeah, they were German.
Really, eh?
And yeah. So I know that I think both of them went by different names. They went by like stage names because their real names were difficult to pronounce. But they were Dieter Bollen and Thomas Anders.
Oh wow,
that's the two guys, and they created this. I don't know how to describe it. It's this like empty, very formulaic kind of music.
Yeah.
But their most popular singles: "You're My Heart, You're My Soul."
Yes.
"You Can Win If You Want." "Cherry
Yes.
Cherry Lady."
Yes.
"Brother Louie."
Yes,
What the other ones? "Atlantis Is Calling."
I know that one.
Geronimo's Cadillac. So Geronimo's Cadillac, like I knew that song. I could remember it. I could remember the tune. I didn't know that's what they were singing. Geronimo's Cadillac. You see what I mean?
What?
Meaningless.
What does that even mean?
You're just saying words now. You're just saying nonsense words. It's all meaningless. But my fact about them is that they were so popular in the Soviet Union that Dieter Bollen was in the late 1980s named a hero of the Soviet youth by the
word.
Soviet state. Yeah, that's how popular they were.
Music in the USSR. Yeah, I know. Like Wham famously did a big tour to China, and it's ironic that one of their big songs was "I Don't Want Your Freedom," but China loved them, and it was literally. I think they were the first Western band to go to China. In terms of USSR, Soviet Union.
Yeah, I mean, Elton John told
but-
us what it's like over there by singing to his
shame.
girlfriend Nikita, who
ends up
he'll
being a
never
boy's
know.
name.
Yeah, and then who he'll never know because she's on the other side of the Iron Curtain
Yeah, she was a pretty lady in the music
in the music video. Yeah.
But Nikita Khrushchev, the Soviet leader, was a boy. Elton.
Do you think that's it? Do you think that's who he was talking about? Do you think that Elton John? You heard it here first.
Was it
Elton
love?
John and Nikita Khrushchev.
He was in love with the Soviet leader all along, and he made us believe it was some model
Yeah.
with a pretty fluffy hat.
Yeah.
Oh, shame.
Anyway, but yeah, so if you
Yeah,
believe
so
him, you
also-
couldn't get into the Soviet Union, let alone.
Billy Joel had some Russian connection, and he went and played concerts there. And I don't know what era it was, but back in the USSR was a Beatles song, but Billy Joel did a cover of it, and he sang it back to the USSR. And then I know there was moments when he was doing a concert in Russia where he asked the crowd to stop lighting the audience because it was doing spotlights, and he was getting crowd. He threw a tantrum, threw his piano into the crowd, type of thing.
Okay.
So
have you seen Billy Joel live, or have you seen?
No, just on the TV.
and
I
Wham?
watched the whole
Did
concert.
you see Wham?
No, but I did see Modern Talking live.
You saw Modern Talking live,
Sun City. It was actually for my sister's 13th birthday, so I would have been 9 years old.
right? Big day.
And my mom took us, and she basically scared the hell out of us. She says, "Oh, it's another country. If they arrest you, you're in jail in another
Hang on,
country."
it must have been like 1987
So
though. This is still
Botswana.
deep apartheid.
Yeah, Botswana. It would have been 88.
Modern
or-
Talking touring South Africa during deep apartheid.
Well, this is how they got away with it. You know, Queen, of course,
Yeah.
toured, and
and then they were in another country.
you know, a
They
band
were
like
Botswana.
Hall and Oates, they were a lovely 80s
Yeah.
pop duo. They spoke out and said, "How dare you, Queen? You know, we're trying to do a thing here
Yeah.
as artists of the world, as sanction South Africa for their apartheid policies. And now you just go and, tour, play a concert at Sun City." But it was like, well, it's not South Africa, but it is, but it's not, but it is, but it's not. And so we ended up seeing Modern Talking live, and it was incredible in the Super Bowl. And
I mean, was it incredible to a 9-year-old who'd never seen anything like that before, or was it genuinely? Do
No.
you remember it as being a really good gig?
the former.
Okay.
No, well, I think it was a good gig because the songs were performed really beautifully, just like you'd hear them on the radio. And there was the dude, and they might have even had friction with a blonde guy. He might have not even been there. So, but his wife was a backup singer. You know, black
Yeah.
hair. He's which
Okay.
is interesting because is he still with her or is he with somebody else?
Yeah.
But her name was Nora, and he had a like a necklace that said Nora, and she was a backup singer.
Was that your first band you saw live?
Yes.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
mine was Duran Duran at the Randyster show.
That's great.
It's,
Modern
you know.
Talking to Duran. I saw a band called Chess live. They were a South African band at the Pick and Pay in Vanderbijl Park.
Oh nice.
In the parking lot.
That's lovely.
We didn't
That's
have to
a good-
pay, but we had to pay for Modern Talking. Okay, so I'd have because of Billy Joel's connection there, and because Wham was touring China, I'd say yes that the Soviet Union did name him a real good
Yeah.
symbol for the youth.
Hero of the Soviet youth. It's a title he was given,
I'd
but
say
he
yes.
only gave it to Dieter Bohlen.
Not the
Didn't give it
blonde
to
oak.
Thomas Anders. Yeah, they must have thought Thomas Anders was unworthy of such accolades.
Man.
But yeah, it's true. It's absolutely
Really,
true.
that's amazing.
yeah.
And you know, you were talking about their formulaic music. They're this one band that's got they got a verse, then a chorus, and then like the second chorus that goes all high pitched and the blonde dude. But it's like, what are their songs? Yeah. So it's like.
Behind myself.
Faith, na 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 na. That's Brother Louis. Na 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 na. That's the verse. Yeah. Let me steal your love. It's easy, easy. That's the verse. Then it goes into the chorus. You're no good, can't you see, brother Louis, Louis, Louis? I'm in love, set you free. And then it goes a second chorus, which the high-pitched blonde dude goes, brother Louis, 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 oh, it's to me.
And every song
Louis,
is the
every
same
song
as
like
that,
that. It's verse,
Yeah.
chorus, second
High-pitched
high-pitched
one.
chorus.
Yeah. I mean, he must have been like, listen, you're getting a lot of the attention. Can I have my high-pitched verse now, please? Can I come in and do my high-pitched verse? No. Can't have a high-pitched verse on every song. No, but you're always on camera and nobody ever... I'm just in the background playing the guitar.
Yeah, or
Please,
maybe
can you...
What
Yeah,
is he
the
playing
key-
that vibe? The side keyboard.
The keytar. No, he was playing he used to play guitar, which is weird. I think most of it was sort of piped through speakers. You know, which got Milli Vanilli in big trouble. But apparently it's fine for Modern Talking. Meanwhile, you know, Modern Talking, the Soviet Union loves them, and their home country, Germany, loves David Hasselhoff.
Shucks.
Yeah, anyway, so yeah, it's true. I started on a
Man,
started
I
on a
love it.
fact.
I love
There you
Modern Talking. I love this. My first fact goes to not two guys singing in a band, but into that lovely 80s monstrously big thing, big power ballads, which were the duets. And I think...
It's like Dolly Parton and Anyone.
yeah.
Is that
Yeah, that
or were
was...
those the 70s? Were those 80s?
No,
Were
also
they
80s. I think Island in the Streams was 80s, eh?
Yeah, you see, the 80s, I told you, they've got a lot to answer for.
And
Islands in the Stream.
There's a great lady named Linda Ronstadt. She's a duet queen, but I thought she did the Dirty Dancing one. I Have the Time of My Life, but it wasn't Linda Ronstadt. It was Jennifer Warner was the girl. And my fact is, actually, her first duet, which she did with Joe Cocker, is my favorite duet of all time. It's also 80s, also from a movie with Richard Gere.
It's not actually a song. It's a video. It's on Pornhub.
With Joe Cocker. He was a singer. Do you know Joe
Oh,
Cocker?
yeah, right. Yeah.
And it's from a movie called An Officer and a Gentleman with Richard Gere. And the song is Up Where We Belong.
Oh, yeah.
Love lift
That's my
us
second
up
least
where
favorite one.
of all time.
Yeah,
Duet.
I'll tell you why. This is gonna wrench open my chest and show you my beating heart, Ryan. Because when I was like 11 or 12 or something, then we used to get in my dad's car and he was playing that song
Really?
and this other song, Islands in the Stream.
Yes.
And then I used to make fun of him. I'm like, what is with these cheesy, terrible songs? And he used to get so angry. Turned out he was having an affair with his secretary and he was playing her Come Lift Us Up Where We Belong in the car while they drove around having their affair. So I'm possibly a little negatively biased against these
wow,
songs.
isn't that interesting? Thank you for sharing, Warren.
Yeah.
Thank you for
I
that.
felt like it's important. People know me better now.
Boy, I love that song. But the reason I've had the time of my life, I've been waiting for so long. Now I finally, was such a huge hit is because the dude singing in there, he's from a well-known band from back in the day named the Righteous Brothers. That's my fact.
Yeah, I think
what
he's
his name
famous.
is,
I think he's
actually.
famous. You don't remember his name?
No, sorry, but I do know he's from. Well,
I feel
my
like if it
fact
was
is-
true, if your fact was true, you would have written his name down. So I think you're lying, and I think you've given yourself away.
No, you bugger! I'm telling the truth. here.
Really? You
Yeah.
just didn't do your research
he's
properly.
the- yeah.
Look,
I just
look how
think-
proud you
well,
are
like,
for
well,
not doing your research.
His
That's
surname
amazing.
is maybe Righteous, because so he was from the Righteous Brothers. He was the one who did the duet with Jennifer Warner on "Time of My Life," and wait, we're getting it now. Yes, and the Righteous Brothers. There's an 80s connection, even though they weren't huge in the 80s. They weren't making their songs in the 80s.
Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes.
Okay, Warnes. Do you?
No, you can't. So, firstly, hang on. You researched a fact here, Ryan. Like, allow me to get pissed off for a second. You researched a fact here about a duet. It's two
Yes.
people singing. This is all you had to know was the names of the two people singing.
Yes.
You didn't bother with the guy. Fuck Bill Medley.
Yeah.
And then you got Jennifer Warnes'
Did I
surname
say,
wrong.
did I say Warnes? Or
Yeah,
Warner?
no.
I said Warner.
You said Warner, and it's in fact Warnes. Yeah.
Well, but you folks know exactly what song I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows the song. I mean, they may not want to, but they know.
So the Righteous Brothers had two big hits, also not in the 80s, but from well-known 80s movies. Of course, the one was Top Gun. You know, when Tom is singing karaoke to the chick, "You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips." That's a Righteous Brothers song. Yeah? Does it not ring a bell?
No, but those are weird lyrics.
Yes.
Like, what does that mean that you're not in love when you
It's
just...
called "You've Lost That Loving Feeling."
You've lost
Yes.
that loving feeling, now it's
Gone,
gone.
gone.
Yeah, but now... So
that was a Righteous
but
Brothers
that's
song.
a weird lyric. You like what
never
you
close your-
does it just mean you just don't bother so much with the kissing? You just stand there like this.
I didn't close my eyes when I kissed my granny. I remember. Okay. Doesn't mean I didn't love my granny.
Yeah, you're just trying to make sure she wasn't slipping you the tongue. like
So you never close
like
your
the day
eyes
she
anymore
wasn't
when
pulling
you
a
kiss
Dalai
someone.
Lama on you.
Yeah. I think that lovely lyrics. You never close your eyes anymore. Yeah, it's like so
No,
you're
it's
born.
weird. Which lips is he talking about?
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Because you could imagine her lying there kind of bored like that way. That makes sense. That's less
Right.
weird than her just like staring vacantly into space while he slobbers on her. It's not exactly very realistic, you know?
Yeah. So there's that, and the other one was remember that scene with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore making pottery?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, in
That's
Ghost.
yes. Unchained Melody. That's the Righteous Brothers. Oh my love, my darling.
Oh, my.
That's the one. That's the one. That was so. He's the dude who sang
darling.
"Time of My Life," but it was a bit of an older dude back when he sang.
Medley.
Yeah,
All right, there we are. Good.
lovely.
Yeah, it's great. All right, so on the 13th of July, 1985, do you know what happened?
yes, it's coming back to me. Yes,
Yeah, you do.
the big show, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yes,
the big
yes.
show.
In fact, that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened.
I watched
An
the
event
movie.
called Live Aid.
Yeah.
They held two concerts at the same time. One was at Wembley in London, and 72,000 people came. And the
Jeez.
other one was in Philadelphia
Philadelphia.
at the JFK Stadium, and 90,000 people came to that one.
Jeez,
and,
like.
and they raised money for charity, essentially.
Yes.
And it's like considered the big kind of turning point in the moment when musicians could start having social consciousness and start raising money for causes and this sort of thing. So it's considered this big thing, and with good reason, because my fact is that those two crowds were the biggest crowds ever sold up until that point to raise money for anything.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, Woodstock wasn't a fundraiser, I don't think. It was just come together in the name of peace. So okay. So you're saying live in a live place?
So they were the biggest. Each of them, they both broke the record. The reason Wembley didn't hold the record is because JFK existed. That's what I'm saying. It's being individually the largest crowds that have ever come together. Well, that up until that point had ever come together to raise money for a good cause.
Yeah, I have absolutely no doubt that you're right, and that is 100% true. But to add on to that, do you know that South Africa did something similar in the same year? We had a thing called Concert in the Park.
So, Ryan, you were so close because Concert in the Park was 6 months earlier and sold 125,000 tickets. And it's exactly why the fact is false.
Oh,
That's exactly, there you are. Yeah. So let's talk about Concert in the Park because it's a piece of South African history that people don't talk about.
I thought it happened after Live Aid.
No. It happened in January.
Really? Yeah. 85?
Yeah, it happened on Saturday, the 12th of January, 1985. Which you must remember. So the thing about this, right? So it's a record producer by the name of Hilton Rosenthal and a Radio 702 owner. I think he was the owner, Izzy Kirsch.
Oh.
They decide that what they're going to do is they're going to have a concert to raise money for Operation Hunger. Operation Hunger was founded in like 1978. I think it's still going. To help the poor. And what they're going to do is they're going to get 22 of South Africa's biggest music acts, all on the same lineup. But here's the revolutionary bit. They're not going to care about the color barrier at all. They're just going to get 22
extraordinary. It was
amazing acts, and they're going to put them on the thing, and they're going to sell tickets. And they sold 100,000 tickets, but they estimate there were 125,000 people there on the day.
My word!
Because people just kept coming in and coming in.
Ellis Park, eh?
Yeah, and I want to read you. Yeah, I mean, it's I think it still might be the single biggest concert South Africa has ever seen. But I want to read you the kind of the lineup and what the guys sang. Yeah, because firstly it's Petit Cheval, which is like a new romantic style rock band. Then Neville Nash, who was in soul. Henry Maitland, who used to call himself Super Freaker. He played a song called Love Satisfaction. Then Mara Lowe, the Idols judge. Yeah, she played a version of Hugh Masekela's Motla Lepula.
Wow.
Which means the Rainmaker. And then Ray Peary's Priestamela Project, the Street Kids.
Oh, wow.
Played their hit I'm Mobile. Then the funk outfit, the Rockets, came on, led by little Ronnie Joyce, and performed Situations. Blondie McKenna was there. She was like a veteran in the music industry. She played her song Inside Out. And she had a moment where she said to the crowd, where she exhorted the crowd to, reach out, hold hands, let's make this world a better place.
Oh.
Yeah, then after that, Margaret Singana comes on and sings Hamba Bikile. She's had a stroke. She's in a wheelchair. She's 7 years after her stroke, but she sings Hamba Bikile, which English people might know better as We Are Growing, the theme song from Shaka Zulu.
Oh my word.
And then experimental rock band Elemental.
I loved them. I loved that song of theirs.
Yeah, and they all did little sets, right? They all did little. It was like 12 hours. Funk band Umoja played Oneness after that. Via Africa.
Yes, they were great.
Hey Boy.
You blow your whistle. Hey, you blow your whistle.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah,
but it's a bunch of white chicks going, you blow your whistle.
Yeah, I think
because they wore bras and stuff.
I think her name was Renee Feltzman, was the lead singer. Yeah. But then Brenda Fassie and the big dudes come on. Brenda's 20 years old. She's performing Weekend Special.
Wow.
Which is a smash hit. And then Harari
came
on with Sipho Hot Sticks. Mabuza obviously played I'm Waiting. Hotline came on with PJ Powell. She was 24 at the time. In an epic mullet, Ryan. In an absolutely epic mullet. Wow. She sang Dance Mama. Steve Kekana comes on, sings Raising My Family. Jaluka is basically now, because people have been coming in the whole afternoon. By the time Jaluka played, just after sunset, the crowd is like it's heaving. The place is so full. People are sitting behind the stands, behind the stage, up in the stands. So they played Scatlings of Africa, amongst other things.
Wow.
And then after that, it's a lot of Feather Control, Pierre de Chaumet, Face to Face, Working Girls, All Night Radio, and then it wraps up with Evoid right at the end, singing Shadows and Junk Jive and whatever. But the point is that it was genuine. It was a multicultural audience. Listening to, all the people who were there on the day say that the thing about it was that people were jamming to each other's music, talking to each other, hanging out, like it was a thing that I think has been largely forgotten because it wasn't particularly political. It wasn't sold as being a political thing. It was sold as being, we're going to raise some money for Operation Hunger. Buy your tickets and come. And it turned into a bit of a political thing because, the musicians sang songs and exhorted the crowd to have a good time together, and like they can, we can forget the way the world actually is.
Yeah.
And this is in the same year. I mean, apart from being before Live Aid, it's in the same year. On the 20th of July, they declared a state of emergency in the PWV, which is Gauteng and Eastern Cape, and then on the 15th of August, PV Botha did his Rubicon speech. We're not giving up on apartheid. This is it now. South Africa's crossed the. Anyway, so I think it's kind of been forgotten because it wasn't a political event.
Yeah.
It wasn't broadcast on the SABC or anything.
There's some footage on YouTube.
So this is what I was going to say. So they released a vinyl at the time. The reason we don't have full set lists for any of the bands, but we do know at least one song that each of the bands sang because it was a vinyl released with a song from each of them.
Oh, I see.
And then they released footage from it.
Yes.
Which has been subsequently put on YouTube. So you can go and actually see this. It's amazing. It's really incredible. Like the lineup is you can't believe that this is 1985 South Africa.
Jeez, like
not like 2009 South Africa. Yeah, it's amazing. As I said, it wasn't a massive, political changing moment for the country. But I think maybe for those people that were there, it was like a sign that. Actually, we aren't as scary to one another as the government is saying.
It's wonderful,
Yeah,
very,
no,
very
really.
powerful. I love that fact. And I went on a bit of a, I have a bit of a crazy music hobby where I kind of have a list of my favorite songs of all time, and so I'm finished with the first 1,000, and I'm busy with the second 1,000 of my favorites.
Okay.
And it's like if I hear it, then I play that game of trying to find it. And I heard a song which I really loved, and then I found out it's South African. Then I found out it's by that band Elemental, and the only trace I could get of it was their little YouTube concert at Concert in the Park. It's called song is called Clowns, but the chorus is "Come on down and see yourself."
Oh yes,
yeah,
well, that's
Clowns. Come on.
Yeah.
It's such a lovely song, and
she made a bit of a speech before it, where she kind of, where she sort of said, "Listen to the lyrics," and made that particular song like, I mean, it is the song's called "See Yourself."
Yes. Now there's a tragedy behind that song, but the one backing vocalist didn't make it to the show. Was killed in a car crash, and they didn't know. There's no cell phones in those days.
Yeah,
she just didn't rock up. They did the show without it, only to find out she'd been killed in a car accident.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of sadness that comes out of this because a lot of the musicians now obviously have subsequently died all these years later. But there were some that died, in the weeks after the show, and then obviously Evoid broke up because the band members didn't want to be conscripted into the army, so they broke up to move overseas and avoid conscription.
Good grief.
And then obviously now recently, over the last few years, lost Seaport, Sticks Mapuza, and Johnny Clegg, and some of the big musicians that were on that particular show. So hopefully, people go and check out those videos because I think it's a thing worth remembering.
Yes. Oh, wonderful! What a wonderful fact! What a proudly South African fact, and a beautiful thing. And I've learned a thing tonight. Like I thought we were following in the footsteps of Live Aid and doing our own South African version of that. Even I know it was fantastically provocative to do that. But it turns out we were the first.
Yeah, I mean, the guys who were there, they describe it more like our Woodstock because they kind of say it was a bit subversive. It was done because it was done for free. It was done all on, like, they say some of the equipment wasn't quite good enough for a show of that nature. The sound guy, he says the next day when they were dismantling everything, some of the plugs had fused into the plug sockets because they were pulling too much power through these plugs. He's like, by rights, that thing should have gone down at 6 o'clock and been a disaster. But for some miraculous reason, it kind of worked in the same way that Woodstock did. This kind of strangely subversive thing.
That's wonderful, man. Well, that's a lovely fact. And staying in the 80s, obviously, because that's the name of the episode. This next fact, I'll give you the fact straight and simple, and then we can talk about it after that. But my fact is that Purple Rain was Prince's first #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Purple Rain, his first one.
I have no idea when he... So I know when Doves Cry was 1985.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea when Purple Rain came out. Not a clue. And whenever anybody says Purple Rain, I just think of Mel Siebrachen's parody Bloemfontein.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
He sings it perfectly.
Yeah.
Bloemfontein. Bloemfontein.
Yeah.
He sings it perfectly.
Yeah, anyway. No, I've got no idea. No, it wasn't.
Oh, you're a clever lad, aren't you? You're a clever lad. Because I'll tell you what, because the year 1983, the king of the universe in 1983 was a certain Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Released Thriller. It had 9 songs in it, 7 top 10s, and he won 8 Grammys in 1983. He elbowed out a certain Prince chap at the Grammys for like, we're gonna party like it's 1999. I think that was up for Song of the Year. But all the songs from Thriller, he was king of the universe. So in 1984, I think it was the end of 82 when Thriller was released, but by the whole of 83, it's the best album, number one. So 84 comes along, and Prince decides he wants to do a little movie about it, a little bit quasi-biographical, a little bit factual about his life, and a little bit fiction, and wants to call it Purple Rain. He gets a first-time director. He's never acted before in his life. He wants to star in it.
I remember the cover.
Yeah, gets a director. That beautiful, iconic stuff, because he's on a big bike and he was wearing this nice suit. And he's got a killer ballad as well for it as well, called Purple Rain. And so yeah, he wants to star in his own movie, first-time director, and they're ready to kind of final cut. They filmed the whole thing, and the director finds him and says, there's this part where it goes from you having memories of your parents being domestic violence and shit, and then you struggling with your relationship, and you travel on the bike, and that little music we're using isn't very powerful. Do you think you could write us one more song? So he went straight home, and he wrote 2 songs. The one he was particularly proud of, and it was, he thought he'd do some introspection, because he had, the story was that he'd grown up with folks who'd fight a lot, then he'd struggle in his romantic relationships, and he kind of writes this thing about, disturbing the peace of the cooing doves, and dig, if you will, a picture, you and I embraced in a kiss, and boom, he writes this thing, and When Doves Cry became the biggest hit of the movie. Purple Rain was huge, but When Doves Cry was the biggest hit. And so in 1984, he dethroned Michael Jackson's Thriller. Purple Rain was the number 1 album of that year. Purple Rain was the number 1 movie of that year, and When Doves Cry was the number 1 song of that year. At some point, it was the triple crown, boom, 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 and he dethroned MJ. Now, I'm the world's biggest MJ fan, but I do love Prince, and I do love When Doves Cry. And you're right, it was not Purple Rain, was not his first number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was When Doves Cry. What a song! What a beautiful song. Yeah, man.
There we go. There we are. Oh, man. We're talking about like real quality music there. So, of course, now what I have to do is I have to bring in my personal favorite. I have to bring my personal favorite band from the 80s, and a band that I still love to this day. If you get a chance, you must go and check out their live BBC performance. Some people already know who I'm talking about. It's a band called Aha.
Oh, yes.
Aha!
Love them.
They're called Aha. they really should have gotten people to bring them on stage like that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aha. Yeah. Anyway, for the people who don't quite know, the young people, the non-boomers, Crying in the Rain. The sun always shines on TV.
Yes.
And of course the massive hit. Yeah. Take on Me.
Oh,
Take
huge.
On Me. But here's my fact about Take On Me, right? It's pretty much, it's got to be one of the biggest songs of the, I think the music video is definitive.
Oh, it's wonderful.
But here's my fact about it. The band released Take On Me on 4 separate occasions before it finally became a hit.
My word.
That's my fact.
That's a crazy fact. And that's a crazy beer. Yes. Thank you, Deeds. Oh, you want me to drink up?
Drink your medicine.
I don't know about Take On Me. I do know this to be true about Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran. But I don't know if they changed it or just re-released it because the timing was off. You know, these things are funny. These decisions in the music world. But Aha, Take on Me. You say the fourth go. Did they change it much, or did you? Was that part of the fact? Did they
That's
change
not
the
part
song?
of the fact. It was just that they released it 4 times before it became
Like in
a
the
thing.
same region. Maybe they tried it in Japan. See, there's the Japan factor.
But they released it 4 times. But, you know, the 4th time is when
Cheers.
thank you very much, dude. 4 times before it became a...
I don't know
became a hit.
about Take
4
on Me.
times. You know that Creedence Clearwater Revival, and it's not 80s music.
Yes.
But they had 7 band names before they
That's
they hit on
hysterical.
Creedence Clearwater Revival and became famous. Yeah.
Now the stories are complicated, and people think, oh, you just write a little hit. No, the pain that goes into one song.
Yeah,
Let
maybe
alone
we
one
need to have
album.
7 names for the podcast. Before it takes off.
And then Professor Rock's going to do a video about us.
Yeah.
But what made the guys really turn off was when they changed it to Spunk on My Glasses in 2024. Man, was that
Yeah.
a
As
huge
everybody
hit.
knows, that's what put their names in the history books. But first, a word from our sponsors. Anyway,
Love him.
yeah.
All right, I'm going to say no, not Take on Me. I think you got your facts wrong. I think it was Duran who did something like that.
Okay. You think I'm dissing Morten Harket and the boys?
Yes, the Danish. He
Yeah.
was Danish. eh?
Norwegian.
Was he Norwegian?
Norwegian, yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Really?
It's absolutely about Take on Me. You know, yeah. So they released it initially. It was released by 2 other band members called Mangafuru Holmen and Paul Wakhtar's band called Bridges released the song, but under like the same song, but they just used to
same
call it
song.
Miss Eerie. Yeah. And then they formed as a trio, the 2 of them and Morton, and they revamped the song and they re-released it under the title Lesson 1 in 1984. And the song even had a video at the time. So it featured the band performing it in front of a blue background. The second release obviously failed. It didn't take off. But they must have really believed in it because they tried it again with a new recording produced by Alan Tani. And only on the 4th recording that they released in 1985, with the obviously iconic animated music video, did it actually like stick and did it actually start taking off? So it's so interesting.
You know,
isn't
no,
it?
I'm telling you, we don't appreciate what goes into a pop song. Like that, it might be that little that might be the hook that nailed it on the 4th. You just never know. There's Professor Rock. Also, we're giving him a lot of airtime in this episode, but I do love the man. He does a video on "I Want to Dance with Somebody" by Whitney, and when the producer got the demo, it was just. She starts singing "Clock Strikes Upon the Hour," and his whole reaction was, "Nah, it's okay." Then he does some shit to it in the beginning, and you don't realize that there is a hey, woo, you don't know. There's so much going on before the song's even started, and that's that genius music producer.
Yeah. It could be the production. You're right. Yeah,
So,
but
my word.
it went straight to number 1 on the US Billboard Hot 100. The first song by a Norwegian band to actually reach that position. Went to number 2 on the UK singles
After
chart.
Ya Ya Ding Dong. I
Yeah,
don't know if
yeah. Ding
Did you see
dong.
that movie?
Yeah, it was great. It was very funny. But now, so the music video is obviously there's a pretty young girl who's meant to be
Yes.
you, the female fan of the sexy Morten Hackett. She's thumbing through a comic book at a coffee shop, and then she notices there's a
being
drawing
chased.
of a luscious piece of man meat in the
Yes.
thing.
With beautiful eyes.
And then he's winking at her from out of the pages. And then a hand comes out and pulls her into basically like a sex fantasy and animation. It's really like it's so kind of
wonderful.
it's so iconic. You know, people have parodied that thing and but it's really iconic.
And at the end, he's getting murd. And then she's like, no, she can't get to him because he's being murd.
Yeah, and the paper gets crumpled. And,
yeah.
Anyway,
it's
but that song, man, because that little hook that you were singing there was sampled in Christina Aguilera and Pitbull's song "Feel This Moment," I think.
Oh right, yes, the
yeah.
buggers. Yeah.
So it might just be that's the catchy part. You know?
Yeah,
That's,
and but of course, when people sample, I'm sure money gets you purchase a sampling, don't you? Hey, for flippin' sure, hey.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lovely, lovely fact. I love
in
that
fact,
song.
you're definitely supposed to, because there's that classic Vanilla Ice story about how he nicked
Oh, yes,
under
of
pressure,
course. Yeah.
and then he went, no, I didn't nick it. Theirs went dun 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 dun, and mine went dun 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 dun. Do you
The
do you see the
judgment,
subtle difference
Could
there?
you do that
Yeah.
again, please?
Yeah. These went dun 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 dun. Mine went.
But re-releasing things and what's also funny in the world of pop music is when a producer writes a song for a certain band and he says, "No, I don't want to sing that crap," and then someone else says, "Okay, we'll take it," and it becomes so freaking huge. Like the classic story of that is the movie Breakfast Club. It ends with "Don't You Forget About Me," which
Don't
was
you forget about
yeah,
me.
exactly.
Don't,
Who's the band again?
you. I don't know.
Simple Minds. But they offered that song to Billy Idol. Yeah. And he's
It
like,
would have been
"No."
a very different song, I think.
Yes.
It may not have been the number one that
Yeah.
it
Might have been
ultimately turned out to be.
too gruffy. Because
Yeah, it's kind of
it was
strange. This
silky
whole, like,
smooth with Simple Minds. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of strange how they write these things with someone in mind and then somebody else. And it still happens in the 90s and 2000s, you know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that, that I approve. I want musicians to write their own damn music. You know?
Yeah, man. Well, I love that fact. It is my turn to to give a fact. Here's a beautiful artist, and it turns out it's a beautiful album. I loved.
Is it Peebo Bryson?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like-
'cause he wrote a NAF song. I mean,
I mean, he was the king of the NAF song.
yeah. I mean,
Except for Aaron Neville. Aaron Neville was the king of the
Mind
NAF
you,
song.
Linda Rodstadt and him. They sang.
And Aaron Neville.
Yeah, I don't know much. But
Don't know much, but I know I love you. And I'm laughing too much to actually sing it, but yeah.
but Peebo Bryson.
Be all I need to know.
Peebo Bryson had a. Now people might accuse me, especially the more they get to know me, of loving NAF songs. But actually, there's some songs even that are too NAF for me.
Okay.
Peebo's got one of them. It's tonight.
Yeah.
I celebrate my love.
Yeah,
for
but these
you.
are like, it's like he went out and he was like, how do I write songs that fathers and daughters will want to dance to at their wedding? You know, like that's what I write. You're like, come on. And then they got him for the Aladdin song, didn't they?
Oh, did they? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was. How does that go? Didn't Celine do it? No, not Celine. She did.
Yeah,
She did Beauty and the Beast. It's a whole new world.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so this dude is I don't think he's naff. You might disagree. He is. Here's my fact. He's a British male, because he's a British male artist. But he went solo for the first time, and in his debut solo album in 1987, we talked about. It's not about the best decade. It's about the best year and the best.
Yeah.
So we know a bit
Anything.
about Thriller and a little bit about Purple Rain. 1987 had some crazy things. We'll talk about that just now. But the fact is this: in his debut solo album, he is the only and first British male solo artist to have 4 number ones from the same album on the Billboard Hot 100. And of course, I'm talking about Freddie Mercury. And that is my fact.
You're not talking about Freddie Mercury. You're
Why am I
definitely.
not talking about Freddie Mercury?
Because you're probably talking about Phil Collins. But at first when you were like, oh, he left his band and then he had an immediate like number one, I was like, I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Limahl. I don't know if you remember Limahl. Limahl was
yes,
he was the
didn't
lead
he?
singer of Kajagoogoo.
You're too shy.
No, well, yeah, but then he left Kajagoogoo and he wrote the iconic theme tune for the Never-Ending Story. So I thought you were talking about him, and then you said 4 number ones.
Yeah,
but
4 number ones.
I am inclined to lean towards Phil Collins
Jeez,
and
that's-
Genesis, and
Sure.
I don't think Freddie Mercury is the right answer. Was the band that he was part of like a big band, or was it just a band?
Well, Queen is big. So.
Oh, so you're saying it was of that
yeah.
that you say it's of that like scale.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, I don't know if Phil Collins is British. That's my problem. I have no idea. I actually don't know where.
Oh
Phil
my
Collins
God!
Is from. Yeah, I don't know
That
where
was
Phil
boring.
Collins is from. Maybe it's Peter Gabriel.
Sure.
Sledgehammer and
Yo.
hey, could be Peter Gabriel. It's definitely not Freddie Mercury. That's all I know about it, and that's all I need to know in order to refute you. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to just say it's not Freddie Mercury.
Be technical then if you want
Yeah.
to. Yes, you're right. It's not Freddie from Queen, who, according to the movie Bohemian Rhapsody and real life a little bit, had a little bit of a solo sojourn, but then came back to the Queen. And according, like the movie, apparently it wasn't that dramatic. Like, I'm leaving you, I'm back.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. It was like they all kind of did their
Yeah.
own thing a little bit and then came back. I'm talking, and well done on Phil Collins. He is British.
Okay, I know.
And
I thought he was, and then I started doubting myself. You see.
And he had a glorious career with Genesis. And Peter Gabriel was the lead singer of Genesis first. And then he went solo. Then Phil Collins was the drummer and said they had auditions and no one was good enough. And then someone said, all right, Phil, why don't you give it a go? All right, I'll give it a go.
Became
And then-
one of the most legendary lead singers, drumming lead singers since Karen Carpenter.
And so Phil could have been the right answer. But I think his solo, which was... he had Think Twice, It's Another Day for You and Me in Paradise. And
Yeah, he had a lot. He had a lot.
Yeah,
he
but,
wrote the whole Tarzan soundtrack. You see that? That
God.
thing's a banger, and the movie's terrible. But
and
the
he translated it into
soundtrack's incredible.
so many languages as well. But in 1987, you had people like, did I make a list? I made a list. You had Bon Jovi going crazy, Def Leppard going crazy, Whitney Houston launching, U2 took over America with Joshua Tree, and you had Michael Jackson with Bad. He's, trying to be better
He's
than
already
Thriller.
he's not been part of the Jackson 5 for a decade.
Yeah, but this Oaks album was bigger than all of them.
Bigger than all of them. Hang on.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can try and work out. He's saying
So it's not Phil Collins, not Peter
this
Gabriel.
individual person.
Yeah.
Who else was really big in the 80s? Was Billy Joel? But I don't know
He
whether
wasn't in a
Billy Joel
band.
was in a
He's not
band.
British,
Yeah,
no.
I was about to say I don't think he was in a band.
He was bigger than Bon Jovi, Michael Jackson, INXS, Whitney Houston, Guns N' Roses, bigger than, Use Your Illusion. What was there? No, not was Use Your Illusion, the one before. Oh, something like that. Def Leppard, U2, bigger than all of it. MJ.
Are you specifically mentioning rock people to throw me off the scent? Is that what's happening?
So he was bigger than those. And he was British, and his first solo album, 4 number ones on the US.
I'm going to kick
Billboard Hot
myself,
100.
aren't I?
Yes.
Yeah,
very
all
much
right,
so.
let's hear it. Who's it?
It's George Michael.
There
From
you
Wham.
are.
Do you
There
remember the album?
Yeah, I do.
Because
I
you got
do.
to have faith, the faith, the faith. So the 4 number ones, please tell me I wrote them. Yes, I
A
did write them
Careless
down.
Whisper.
No, that was way
A
before.
much later one.
It was Faith, and then a beautiful song called Father Figure, and a lovely one called One More Try. It's a slow ballad. It's really gorgeous. Then there's a song about monkey on your back. Watch out, baby, who's back. It's about...
See, I don't know any of these. I feel like these could have only been number ones only in the UK. You get these.
No,
you get
US.
these. No, but you get these acts in the UK where they're like, oh, I love him. His name's Trey Stevenson. He's from a trailer park down the road. He's got 7 number ones off his leg. Lewis Capaldi is that sort of thing. They're like, who the fuck is Lewis Capaldi? Oh, he's the tubby ginger from down the calf. He's got 7 number ones. Funny.
Because they are
Robbie
actually
Williams,
never quite cracked it in
like
America.
Robbie Williams is
and
that
they
thing,
wanted to, yeah.
I don't think cracking it in America is as easy as the British.
Hey, the
seem to think
Pythons
it
did.
is.
I just saw their
They
documentary.
absolutely did.
They
yeah.
did, eh?
But, and in the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sheepers, hey? So, George Michael, because Wham was huge and then he left Wham. But where he's really special, George Michael, as an artist, is in between Wham and wanting to go solo, he has a duet, another duet from the 80s with the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, and he nailed it. He matched her, and it was called...
You think he matched her? I would say people are now screaming and throwing things.
No,
at
it's
her.
called...
There's no way he matched Aretha Franklin.
Knew you were waiting. And the river was deep.
Yeah.
I didn't falter. Yeah, he matched Aretha.
I feel there's that video of the night when Pavarotti was supposed to perform with Aretha Franklin, and then he called in sick.
Really?
And
You
he
check
said
it
he couldn't
out.
do it. So the producers just went to Aretha and went, "Can you sing Nessendorma this evening? Go check YouTube. She's amazing."
No.
Yeah.
Did she nail it?
Yeah,
eh?
she nailed it.
My
So
God.
when you tell me George Michael, and listen, George Michael he's clearly a very good singer because when Freddie died, he was Queen's first choice to take over as lead
Oh,
singer.
really?
Yeah. And they did a tour together, but it didn't really work out.
Okay.
And then they went with Adam Lambert for a bit, the Idols
Yeah,
guy.
he's got a nice. He does a nice rendition of "Somebody to Love." Hey, George Michael. It's still the live version gets a lot of radio play and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but so obviously Queen, they must have seen something in him. They must have thought, oh well, you've clearly got the singing voice for
The
it.
big one.
But
the
yeah,
big
listen,
voice.
like of those, only Faith is one that I know off the
Father
top of my
Figure is
head.
beautiful, man.
So when you tell me he had 4 big number ones, and they were these 3
From one
nonsense
album,
songs,
eh?
they were these 3 nonsense songs that you've never heard of, and also Faith, which obviously very famously covered later by Limp Bizkit.
Did they? Did they really?
They did.
But did they scream the chorus? Did they go, "I got a faith"?
Yeah. I can't remember. Did George Michael have a mullet?
No. He had long hair. Maybe it was mulletish. No, but it was wavy on top, not like spiky.
But was it
on
short though? Because the
No.
mullet. Remember George Clooney had a mullet in what was that? ER.
Did he?
Yeah, no. The mullet came in many forms. It wasn't
Lamal
just the
had
rich.
one.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly.
Yeah.
Lamal had an epic one.
Yeah. Alex J on Fast Forward.
He did.
Pop Shop.
That's
Oh,
right.
He
Oh,
had
the
a
mullet.
mullet.
The mullet was the thing.
Yeah.
And in fact, this is beautifully segueing straight into my next fact, Ryan, because I want to talk about the mullet. You can't talk about 1980s music without talking about the gorgeous thing that is the mullet, you know. And I think to this day, we make fun of the mullet a little bit. It's coming back a little bit. You sort of see Australian rugby league players. And Russian mobsters are trying to bring back the mullet, but and there are bands that kind of have ironic mullets now, you know, kind of European German bands that ironically have mullets. But you know, back in the day, it was a thing. You know, John Stamos was the coolest guy in the world from Full House, and he had a mullet. And then Mel Gibson in the first 3 Lethal Weapon movies, he had a mullet.
Yes.
And Richard Dean Anderson, obviously as MacGyver, he had a mullet.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, so, and then musically,
So it was a cool thing before
Yeah.
Brackpan and Springs
well,
caught
exactly,
on.
yeah.
Hey?
But then Richard Marx, David Bowie, Michael
Shit.
Bolton, they all had mullets.
Yes.
All had mullets, and Lamal, obviously.
Lamal.
Yeah, and then but here's my fact about it. So its decline as a hairstyle, ironically, comes from the exact same place as its name. So the reason for its decline comes from the exact same place as its name, and that is the Beastie Boys.
So it comes from
Essentially,
the
what I'm
same
saying
place
is,
as
what
its
I'm saying
name.
is, essentially, is that the Beastie Boys are
Made it-
responsible for both naming the mullet and making it uncool.
Oh, I see. Oh my. Yeah, that sounds to me like, because back then they were quite like they were like a hardcore band, even though their songs are probably the little I know of their songs are a bit silly, but they were a very cool band to listen to back in the late 80s.
in the late 80s, early
Yeah,
90s, yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, but also I just realized that means that essentially people were getting a haircut in the 60s, 70s, and 80s where they didn't know what it was called. They just they go to their barber and just be like, the one with that fluffy on the top and along at the back. Make it like that. But
Oh
no, I'm
my
sticking by
word.
my fact.
So they named
They named it
the mullet.
They named it the mullet, and they're responsible for the decline of its coolness.
Yeah, to me, it's something had to happen. Something's got to give. You know, it's like, it's almost like, it's so sad what happened in the 80s, but it's like, I'd like to, like, one day go consider some deeper talk about why the 80s was so cool, assuming it was cool. But I like to think it was because, you know, the Iron Curtain fell, and then Nelson Mandela got released. But before that, there was
Nelson
this.
Mandela got released in the 90s.
Yeah, but at the edge of the 80s.
No.
At the edge
No,
of the
no,
and the
no,
Iron
no.
Curtain.
No. Oh, the Iron Curtain fell in the 1980s, but it's very important
Yeah.
that you not say Nelson Mandela was
Was released in the 80s. No,
Absolutely was
fine.
not, yeah.
No, fine. But there was this when there's cuck, major cuck, like a Cold War and an apartheid system.
Right.
There's almost this, the music is more than. It's
Do you
so
think that the world in
purposeful.
general, do you think like America and Britain in general, I mean, I know that they used to have like, drives to end apartheid and whatever, but do you think that they really cared that much that it influenced all of world pop culture?
Well,
Do you think that when Bon Jovi were getting on stage, whoa, you're halfway there, they were cheering up Mandela?
there was
After 14
there was a what year was the Free Mandela concerts in London that went berserk? We didn't know nothing about it, but it was the
Free Nelson Mandela.
Isn't that our boy? What's his name? He was a reggae dude, Lucky Dube.
Free Nelson Mandela.
Lucky
With
Dube.
every T-shirt purchased this Friday.
And but the thing is, I think when there's crisis, there's hope in the music, and it's escapist and hope and joy. And then when the problems got solved, it was like, oh shit. Then
And
there was
everybody
kind of
got bummed out.
yeah. Then
I
there
don't
was
think so.
then there was.
I don't think so. I think the 80s, but the 80s, you must remember, like financially, were a big period of boom. There was a lot of money around. It's where the movie Wall Street kind of comes from. Greed is good, says Michael Douglas. That's a famous 1980s kind of quote. So there was a lot of money in most of the world. Maybe not in South Africa because we were under heavy sanctions and whatever. But I think there was a lot of money around. It was a very kind of flippant, very, as I say, very sort of airy generation. If you look at the movies and things of the time, the big movies, 16 Candles and
Yes.
all these kind of
Back to the Future.
what's it, The Breakfast Club and these sorts of
Yes, and also, they were quite a ambitious, entitled generation, especially if you look at the movie like, also in that Brat Pack era, St. Elmo's Fire. I
yes,
love
yeah,
that
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
They're all like, they just go to college and they just want jobs and it's just easy and I'm going to do this and this and this and this and go to this and marry this guy and do this. It was all like the American
Yeah.
dream was just right.
Yeah, because these
fucking
things tend to just backlash against each other, right? So the 90s kind of come out and go, oh, well, actually, everything's not so great.
Yes.
If you don't mind, we're going to grow our hair long and not give a fuck about fashion anymore because you guys have taken all the money. and then like some hope comes up in the early 2000s despite the American Twin Towers thing and the wars that they're having. There's some hope.
Yes.
Killers come out.
Yes.
And these kind of like jaunty bands. Keyboard is back.
Yeah.
Hooray! And then who knows what the fuck has been going on for the last decade? We've basically just been like, any stripper can have a number one. Like we don't care anymore.
Oh my
I don't
God.
know.
Shit, whose is it? Whose turn is it?
No,
It's
so we're
Mullets.
talking about mullet. Yeah, we're talking
Yeah,
about
okay,
a
I'm going
mullet.
to go with yes. The
So,
Beastie
but-
Boys named and destroyed the mullets.
I mean, so it's very difficult to track, what changes fashion. Like why would a thing like the mullet that had for 3 decades been growing in popularity to the point that like, big movie stars were wearing the mullet and it was considered awesome. Why would it suddenly end? And it's been tracked to a 1994 song by the Beastie Boys called Mullet Head. A mullet head has always been a negative connotation for somebody who's a bit stupid, but it doesn't think things through. Ernest Hemingway used the phrase mullet head. And so they have this song called Mullet Head. But in that song, they have the lyric, cut the sides, don't touch the back. You're a mullet head. Essentially, you're an idiot. You cut your hair like that. And it was so brutal and so effective at eliminating the mullet head that by Lethal Weapon 4, even Mel Gibson had done away with his mullet. Andre Agassi had shaved his head.
Oh my word! Yes, that's right.
The mullet was banished. So ruthlessly insulting was the Beastie Boys song about what it is to have a mullet that the mullet would vanish from human society from 1994 until about 2023. It's almost 30 years, the Beastie Boys. That is a solid burn. That is a sick burn, is what that is. Good for you, the Beastie Boys.
Man, that's crazy. But it was such a distinctive change, even in fashion. You're talking fashion from this era to that era. It was almost like this line. Like it's almost like
No,
someone
but
said,
it's-
"Now stop that. That's enough. We're going to do this now."
Yeah, but it's not really. When you look at the history and you see the
Nah.
beginnings of grunge at the end of the 80s and
That's right.
yeah,
yeah,
they sort of
yeah.
started coming out like early 90s and you know,
Yes.
really reaching mainstream stuff by early 90s already. And then,
Yeah.
so it wasn't really. So if you think about it, grunge is kind of an 80s music style.
Yeah.
Tell that to Kurt Cobain. Put his brains in the roof for a second time.
Kurt. Why'd you do it, Kurt? Anyway, that's another.
I remember in
another
my
podcast.
school, I arrived because, as I said, like I didn't really pay much attention. Even in the early 90s, I wasn't really paying attention. I was listening to some bands, some pop music, because I just didn't want to not fit in with all the other kids
Yes.
at my school.
Yeah.
But then the only music I listened to that I liked, that I actually had something, was REM.
Yes.
It was like only REM. And then everything else was like, oh, I don't really like any of this.
Quite cool.
And then, but I remember I came to school the day after Kurt Cobain had committed suicide. People were genuinely unhappy. I had a girlfriend when I was at university. She said that she and her friends had gotten together and had a bit of a weep and lit some candles and stuff over the fact that he was dead.
Wow.
Yeah, so it like influenced people on the other side of the world that this guy had killed himself.
Yeah, very much.
He joined the 27 Club.
Yeah, what's that author that you like? And I read his book, and then they turned his books into movies and TV shows.
Nick Hornsby.
Yes. His little character, the friend of his little character, when it's like takes place when Kurt dies, and the friend goes all mourning.
You
and
talk about
rush.
High Fidelity.
Am I?
Are you?
I think so.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm talking about the one with the little kid with Hugh. They turned it into a movie with
about
Hugh
a
Grant.
boy.
Oh, what a sweet movie.
Okay.
Yeah, about a boy. Kurt Shane, but we are talking about it's
Yeah,
me.
about the mullet. Yeah, I mean, I could carry on talking about the mullet if that's what you want to do. Because the thing is, the mullet really did get synonymous with people on the East Rand of Johannesburg.
Yes.
The
Yes.
far north of Cape Town.
Isn't our very own Corne and Twaki? Doesn't Twaki have a bit of a
exactly,
Twaki?
exactly,
Yeah.
and they do that like parody characters.
Yeah.
Those, the mullet is, and it's always paired with a mighty snore.
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
really, like it's so much effort to keep a hairstyle like that because essentially you have to wash long hair, stop the split ends at the back of long hair, while also going for regular haircuts at the
Like
top.
a good old brush cut at the top. Yeah, spikes.
So you don't like if you just grow your hair, you don't have to go for haircuts. You just have to,
Yes.
look after it a little bit.
Yeah,
But if you cut it short, then you don't have to look after it. You just keep on cutting it all off. You're fine.
yeah.
But the mullet it's the worst of both worlds.
It is.
It's a lot of effort for what, essentially.
But-
Let's be honest, Michael Bolton.
But if the chicks dig it, the chicks dig it.
Yeah,
you
I mean
know
they
what
must have.
Yeah, they must have loved
Maybe
it.
that's what we need. Is we need our female host to tell us what it is about the mullet that they find so alluring. No, listen, because it wasn't only a men's haircut. Like women used to, as I say, PJ Powers had it at the,
yeah,
at
that's
the
right.
concert in the park.
Yeah.
So women have had the mullet.
Oh, they
Scarlett
did?
Johansson. I mean, recently it's kind of come back. Scarlett Johansson's had a mullet, and
I wouldn't mind if I saw a girl with a mullet.
Oh, really? Oh,
especially someone like
you'd
Scarlett.
forgive the.
Yeah, if she came with a snort, I'd be a bit concerned. But a mullet, I don't think I'd mind terribly, hey?
Really? Is that your acceptable
Yeah,
V-Town
I
coming
think
out? Is that what this is?
Must have been. No, because I don't know, in the 80s it became a unisex thing then, eh?
Yeah,
The mullet was
everybody could have a mullet. You see those pictures of the ladies, because also they weren't brush cutty. They would sort of perm it a bit on the top and then have it.
Hey,
hanging back at the back.
Martina Navratilova.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. And Chris Evans, now that I think about it, I think. I
Was it
wonder if
Chris
Chris
Evans?
Evans Lloyd had a. Martina was always playing against Chris Evans. Yeah. It was lovely.
Lovely. You just like you've gone off somewhere and you're thinking about tennis in the 80s. I mean, look at
On the
Andre
lawn.
Agassi. Andre Agassi,
Oh, yeah.
and he was the
Super
super
cool.
cool bad
Super
boy
cool.
of tennis. Yeah,
Oh,
like he
yeah.
couldn't play at Wimbledon because he wouldn't wear the all white. You know?
Yeah.
Like he's fucking badass.
And then the next year, like he wore the whites, but it was still in his style. It was like, fuck, I'll wear white,
Yeah.
but I'm still cool.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
t-shirt out and the sort of baggy-ish thing and chains
Yeah,
hanging
yeah.
and.
And
it
as I
was
say,
cool.
his mighty mullet.
Yeah, and he won it the one year. He beat Sampras
He did,
or
yeah.
something. Or he outgunned the Oaks. My previous fact was about a British
Yes.
male solo
George
artist.
Michael.
Now, and I must confess, this next one is also, but it's his debut. It's his debut. But did you know? Here's my fact. Did you know that a chap called, I don't know if you remember this chap. The year is, once again, would you bloody believe it, 1987. Now,
Have you decided that the music was absolutely 87 was the best year for music?
I'm still torn between 84 and 87. The professor is right. I'm still torn. Like one band I left off the list who launched huge in 87 was also R.E.M. You mentioned it. R.E.M. also did a big thing in 87.
Yeah, but R.E.M. were huge from the 70s already. They released the best of in, I think, 1982.
Yeah, but I think
the best of R.E.M. was released.
Weren't they quite alternative, and then they went quite mainstream?
College rocky. Yeah. End of the World as we know it is from that period, from the late 70s.
Oh wow. Stand was like their big sort of huge pop. Okay, who is this band? They're cool.
Yeah. But End of the World as we know it. I'm just trying to think what other ones were from around there. Green grow, the rushes go. That's late 70s R.E.M. But yeah, as I say, they released the best of in 1982.
And a New Orleans outfit, I believe.
What do you? Oh, them?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I think so.
I don't even know.
They were close with B-52s.
Okay.
Yeah. B-52s, quite a band. So, there's an artist on debut, 1987. Male, solo, British. No, not British. He released it from Britain.
Okay.
But he's American. And he also, on his debut, had 4, not number ones, but top 10s on debut. And the chap's name was Terence Trent D'Arby.
Okay.
That's my fact. He had 4 top 10 hits.
I think you're right.
On the Billboard
when you
100. On his debut album.
You initially got mixed up about like America and Britain. And
Yes.
I thought maybe you were talking about Chris Isaac. Because obviously Chris Isaac, famously British.
Oh, was he British?
Yeah, but he released this album,
with that song Wicked Games.
Yeah, that's right. Which is it's sort of now quintessentially associated with Backroads America and long highway drives in the south of America. And that was because that was the marketing behind it. But he was actually, I think he was British. So, but yeah, Terence Trent D'Arby. Yeah, he was a thing.
Yes, I will not to delay the suspense too much longer. It's absolutely true. It's a beautiful fact. I got to tell you, folks. 1987. His album was called. It was called Introducing. The.
I love how you got everything.
According to. Something like this thing is called Introducing Terence Trent D'Arby. I think that's the name of the album. As simple as that. Introducing Terence Trent D'Arby, something like that. But there's 4 hits, and they're some of my favorite songs of all time. 3 of them, anyway. There's a song called "Wishing Well." It's just super funky and brilliant.
I'm not sure I'm a fan of that song.
Oh no, I flippin' love it. And then there's another one called "If You Let Me Stay," which he belts out like an exquisite. He's like Aretha. His talent. On those songs.
You just compare everybody with Aretha, don't you?
Yeah. But then my favorite from that album is a song called Sign Your Name. Sign your name across my heart. I want you to. So I was like, what happened to this guy? Why have we not heard about him with such a glorious debut? And it turns out he's got a massive volume of work and he's scored many movies and TV shows and stuff. And the reason we ever heard about him is because he changed his bloody name. Like Prince did, who went to, the artist formerly known, and then he was just a sign, and he went back to Prince. So his name is Sananda Maitreya. Sananda Maitreya. Okay. And he's still a musician composing glorious things, winning awards and stuff. But there was...
I thought you were going to say like Bruce Dickinson. He changed his name. Is Bruce Dickinson. He's now the lead singer of Iron Maiden.
But there was something exquisite about that debut album, introducing Terence Trent D'Arby, Sign Your Name Across My Heart, Wishing Well, and If You Let Me Stay. If You Let Me Stay. And there was another one, even a 4th song, something about a girl. What is her name? Something about a girl. That's
Excellent.
not the name of the song.
Right. Look, I think the thing is that it's here. His research is here, but it's written on Barocca boxes. Ryan's mind is letting him down.
Yeah. 4 number ones.
What you have to do is you have to walk through your mind palace. and you have to hook the names of each of the songs in different places. So when you open the drawer of the cupboard, you can see the names of all 4 songs, and then you close it, and you'll never forget, because whenever you return to that room in your mind palace, and you open that particular drawer, there will be the names of the 4 singles of Terence Trent D'Arby's first album.
This was like big in the late 90s. This stuff.
The Mind Palace. Yeah.
Wasn't it called the Workshop?
Oh, I don't know.
Mind Palace, eh?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not called the Mind Palace,
this is why you remember everything that
ever
that you've read.
What I did was I went into the kitchen and then I opened the kitchen drawer and I put the phrase Mind Palace in there, and that's how I remember that it's called a Mind Palace. But yeah, you're allegedly allowed. You can do it about your town. So if you walk around your town, it's supposed to be a memory trick that works. That you hook your facts on various things, so that you're like, oh, when I'm at the fishmongers, these are my fish facts.
But this is when you're learning for a test or something.
I don't know. It's supposed to be a memory technique that works throughout your life.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows?
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, we're on to multiple choice already. I don't want to be on multiple choice already, Ryan.
It's been so much fun. Have we still got beer?
Yeah, I was saying like
juice. We
Yeah,
got we got any more Oros for Warren?
I was saying that that the cassette is coming back, and I'm quite happy about it. I had a Walkman. Did you have a Walkman back in the 1980s?
I did.
Yeah, that they charged more for those than most like full size cassette players. You could buy a proper sound system, and they used to charge more for them because the name was so synonymous with the idea of like a mobile cassette player.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, they used to they manufactured them up until 2010. I didn't know that.
What, with
like
the cassette?
actual
With
cassette?
the tape?
Yeah, with a tape. I didn't know that. And in fact, they're still licensing a Chinese firm to make Sony Walkmans.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had an old Opel in the early. Is this your fact though?
No. I'm just talking.
I had an old Opel even in the early 2000s, which still took a tape deck cassette, and I'd listen to things. Back then, I was listening to a few like teachings of sermons and stuff, and some of them old churches still had. You can buy the cassette from last week's sermon at the front desk. Just make a donation.
Would you buy the cassettes for those? Was that just so you could get a blank?
No, there was a special speaker.
Okay.
There was a visiting preacher who had a really strong message.
Okay, so you wouldn't buy them just to record stuff off the radio, because that's how I used to record old rock set off the radio. You sit and you wait and then always Alex J. I have a bone to pick with Alex J because he would start playing "Join the Joyride," and then just as it starts to really proper get into the lyrics, he'd go, "This is Joyride by Roxette." And like, damn you, Alex, you've ruined it.
Damn it, Alex.
Now I have to wait. Yeah, now I have to wait till you to play it a second time so that I can record it. I bet he did it on purpose.
Yeah.
I
was more a fan of the previous album, Look Sharp, which had You Got the Look and Dressed for Success.
Yes, but I was merely using an example of a song that I attempted.
You were a late adopter for Roxette.
What I'm talking about is I had spent a lot of time sitting at the radio trying to record the songs I liked off of the radio. And Alex J used to ruin all of them, because he just didn't know when to shut up. That was essentially his problem, Alex J. He just did not know when to shut the fuck up.
Do you know a fun fact about Alex J?
No, tell me a fun fact.
He went to my school.
Did he?
Yeah. And
you know
not
that
only that, he went to my hostel.
You want to know a fun fact about that fact? You've actually done that fact on the podcast before. Yeah.
As a fact.
No, not as a fact. Just kind of as a thing. But yeah, I was thinking, because that Walkman, I have a little fact that I read while I was doing this research. That was like initially when, in 1979, the year of the Walkman's release in Japan, recorded music sales were at 4 billion, half of which went to vinyl.
Sure.
So 2 billion that year. Yeah. The Walkman made its US debut in June 1980, and just 3 years later, 1983, cassettes overtook vinyl as the top format, and it's down to the Walkman.
Damn it, down to the Walkman,
Down to the Walkman, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
No, that's not my fact.
No, because it's multiple choice.
I mean, so multiple choice. I'm going to give you a multiple choice, but that's just a bonus. That's a
bonus
real thing,
fact for you, because we love you.
Yeah.
You
all right, so every year the Billboard Pop charts. They say, what is the song of the year?
Yes.
Every year in the 80s, I've got the songs of the year. And I'm going to name 4 songs.
Nice.
And I want you to tell me which of them is, in fact, not.
I'm going to nail
The
you
Billboard.
so hard. You're going to regret doing this one.
Oh, really? You think so? All right. I think
So
you
you're
might
saying
have,
this is not a number 1 in the 80s?
this is not the Billboard
Of
pop
the- of
song
that
of the
year.
year for that year.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to nail you in this one.
All right. You think so? All right. I think you might have lured yourself down a dark path with your earlier fact, but let's see. Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes.
Sure.
When Doves Cry by Prince.
Oh, golly.
Big in Japan by Alphaville. Or Walk Like an Egyptian by the Bangles.
Oh, this is tough.
Yeah, you see, I told you walked yourself
Shit.
a dark path earlier.
Yeah, I'm very much hoping that that Professor of Rock, because I'm going to murr him if he's wrong. So-
Yes, I'm gonna go to his house in Idaho. I'm gonna proper stuff him out the
With
window.
a potato, I'm gonna murr him with his own potato from his own garden. All right, so I'm obviously wanting to cancel off When Doves Cry. I think Betty Davis Eyes was so huge, man. So was Walk Like an Egyptian. The one I'm leaning toward that it wasn't a number 1 was the other one you mentioned.
Big in Japan by Alphaville.
It's a great song. Yeah, song of the year. Are we talking American? Yeah, Billboard Hot 100 doesn't matter.
It's the
Song of the year.
it's the official American Billboard pop song
I
of the year.
don't think
1980.
that little German outfit
and-
quite cracked it in with
But hang on, I'm gonna give you a little added fact here, just as an added little bonus. What year did you say Michael Jackson dominated everything?
83, 84. So Thriller was 83, and then a little bit 82, a little bit 84 on the fringes.
All right, so I'm going to tell you that the number 1 song on Billboard 1983 was "Every Breath You Take" by the Police. So it may not be about necessarily.
That sort of thing.
That
Now,
sort of
most
thing,
weeks
yeah.
at number 1 or something like that, you know.
But these are the official Billboard pop song of the year. Yeah.
Fuck, man. When Doves Cry, come on. Walk Like an Egyptian, is it big enough to be number 1? Betty Davis Eyes, yes.
I feel
Alphaville.
like whenever I think about the Bangles, "Walk Like Egyptian" is maybe the second song I think of. I think of Eternal
Flame,
first, right?
huge,
Yeah.
eh? Yeah. They had so many lovely songs. I love the Bangles. I'm going to stick with Alphaville's Big in Japan not being the number 1 song of its year in the 80s. I'm going to say Betty Davis Eyes was. I'm going to say When Doves Cry was. And I'm going to say Walk Like an Egyptian was. Let's see if I'm right.
Well, it is your area of speciality, Ryan, and you've nailed it. And I'll tell you, I actually made it super easy for you.
You
actually.
did.
Because Big in Japan was released in 1984, firstly.
Oh.
So it had a lot of
Bap,
competition.
bap, 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 bap.
Yeah, had a lot of competition. But secondly, it never made the top 40 anywhere.
That's a scandal.
It peaked at number 66.
That's
so
a
I made it.
scandal.
Yeah, but
That's
this is
better
this is,
than that.
I thought that as a kind of added fact. But anyway, here they are. Here's the songs of the decade on the pop chart. Best pop song of the year.
Yes.
1980s. 1980. Call Me by Blondie, right?
Wow.
1981, Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes. 1982, Physical by Olivia Newton-John.
Oh, fuck.
Let's get physical.
Physical.
1983, Every Breath You Take by the Police. 1984, When Doves Cry by Prince. 1985, Careless Whisper by Wham.
Wow.
1986, That's What Friends Are For by Dion and Friends.
Yep.
Dion Warwick, Gladys Knight, Elton John, and Stevie
Stevie
Wonder.
Wonder.
Yep. 1987, Walk Like an Egyptian by the Bangles. 1988, Faith by George Michael. And 1989, Look Away by Chicago.
Jeez,
Look away, look away.
No, look away. Hang on, that was Big Country. I think you got the
Oh,
wrong.
maybe I got the wrong one, but that's what it is. It's song "Look Away" by Chicago.
Look away. That's fascinating.
Let's
what
see
a
if-
lovely
I
fact.
just assumed it was the "Look Away" one. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Ooh. Anyway, what is your fact? Well, I'm
Ooh, okay.
typing this up.
Well, another thing that crept up in the 80s, which people couldn't really get enough of, and there was a weird kind of nostalgia in the 80s for other eras, and I'm talking about cover versions. And I'm asking you, which of these 4 songs was not a cover version? So it hadn't been previously released by another artist. So one of them is not a cover version. So we got Tainted Love by Soft Cell. We got Material Girl by Madonna. We got Ti Amor by Laura Branigan. And we got I Think We're Alone Now by Tiffany. One of those is not a cover. So we've got Tainted Love, Soft
I know
Cell,
Tainted Love is
Material
one. I
Girl,
know Tainted Love
T.
is one.
Amor, Laura Branigan, and I Think We're Alone Now.
I
Do you know
think
T. Amor?
material. Yeah. No, I'm a very after this podcast no longer a secret Lauren Branigan fan, but I'm a huge Lauren Branigan fan.
Me too. I love her.
Big fan. All right, so I know that Tainted Love is a cover. I believe there's a part of my brain that's saying that Material Girl is a cover, which is interesting. You've chosen well with Tia Moore because it is the kind of song that could easily be a cover. And what was the fourth one?
I Think We're Alone Now.
I think that's a cover. I think that's a cover. So I'm going to go with Tia Moore by Lauren Branigan.
All right, and the answer is, well, let's do what Warren does. Let's do what Warren does.
Oh.
Tainted Love, Soft Cell, you were right. 1964, Gloria Jones did Tainted Love. You went with Ti Amor by...
Yeah.
Okay, so
is it
I
is it
Think
Madonna
We're
that's
Alone
not
Now
the cover, yeah?
by Tiffany was a band, Tommy Jones and
Yeah.
the Shondells in 1967. So that leaves us with Ti Amor by Laura Branigan or Material Girl by Madonna.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that in 1977, an artist by the name of Umberto Tozzi, an Italian artist, did the original of Ti
Of
Amor.
Material Girl, obviously.
No, of Ti Amor. Material Girl was
an original.
Was Madonna's original number.
So here's the
You
song.
don't win it.
Here's the song. I don't know whether I'm
Look
allowed
Away
to
by
play.
Chicago.
Yeah, so there is a song called Look Away by Chicago. I just assumed it was the Look Away, Look Away.
No, that's big country, huh?
Yeah, all right, but all right, let's see here.
It's not even Peter Cetera.
Alright,
Did they get rid
well.
of Peter Cetera?
I don't know.
Is
know.
that the biggest song of
No,
1989?
that's the song of 1989. Yeah, Chicago, Look Away. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Okay, so for a brief year in the 80s, it went a bit meh.
Maybe in a brief year. They didn't even get Alphaville's big in Japan.
Sure, that's a shocker,
To
hey?
66 is where it peaked on
And
the
you know what
charts.
song's got a lot of soul is that Sounds Like a Melody by Alphaville. It sounds like a melody.
Didn't they they also did a Crying in the Rain, didn't they?
Those
it?
Aha. Maybe
Yeah.
did Alphaville do it? But their sad one was Forever Young.
Oh, it's Forever Young that they did. That's
That
right.
that was our
That's
final
right,
dance
that's
at all
right.
the discos between Posh Boys and Posh Girls.
Oh, so
Forever
creepy.
I don't know what those
Well, the
DJs
PE
said.
teacher stood in the back and, that's right, boys. Get in there. Did you have to dance with the girls from Poch Girls?
Yes. It was the Posh Boys, Posh Girls discos, and we took
But-
turns hosting.
But what happens if you didn't
Like
like
3
the-
dances a year. You had to take a girl from Posh Girls.
Oh, you had to that dance.
Yeah. Then, for some reason, they went a bit liberal toward the end. Just the one. I think they tried it once.
And then they went right back.
They said, this disco, no one has to take any partners. Just rock up.
Yeah.
And
And it just
I
turned
think
into
it
an
was
orgy.
better for... It was better for ticket sales, maybe, because they're forcing you to invite someone in.
Yeah.
Because if it was because the rules were quite, I stand corrected, but the rules were quite, if we were hosting, we had to invite a girl. And then if the girls were hosting, they had to invite a boy. So it was quite, but what would happen is like the girls would say, are you going? Who's going? You're not going? We'll tell. And then the girls would say, tell all the guys, this girl doesn't have to go. Can you invite her so we can, and then they'd make plans like that. We'd make a plan.
I see. That's lucky.
We didn't want them staying in their pajamas in the hostel watching When a Man Loves a Woman.
And yet, ironically, that's all I would have wanted to do.
Let's leave me. I was going to stay here and watch When a Man Loves a Woman
No,
again.
I can't.
In my pajamas.
Can't come. I'm eating a liter of ice cream. Watching, yeah. Good. All right, Ryan. That was
what
fantastic.
a wonderful ep. Thank
I'm
you.
glad that you
Thanks,
did so
Teets.
well. I'm glad you did so well in this episode. It's your area of expertise. Never will you do as well again.
Never.
It was amazing.
Let's not do
Well done.
maths or anything like that.
Well done.
No, we will. Give us maths. We'll do it.
Give us maths.
Just trigonometry by itself.
Yeah. I'll see if I can remember how to do that. That should be fun.
Sin
Anyway,
cost
thank you
10.
very much. Like,
Thank you.
subscribe, and share, and tell your friends. Thank you to all of you who have come around so far. Your mere presence, the fact that you've watched this far, is gift enough for us. Though in 100 episodes' time, it won't be, and we'll be asking you to join Patreon. So enjoy it while it lasts.
And good evening, good morning, good night. And if I don't see you again, good afternoon. I'm really going to watch that movie.
Too much
Cheers.
orange juice. Good night.
Bye. Ciao. Fun.